Hello, welcome to The Buzz. On this episode, woodpeckers are drumming their way into the spotlight. Learn who they are and how to attract them into your yards. Then we'll take a moment to review the past year and tell you stories of what really happened when filming. Can I get a drum roll, please, on this episode of The Buzz? I want you to close your eyes and picture a particular type of bird. This bird has black and white with a dash of red. It can be found hopping up and down trees in search of insects, and it's the most famous for drumming on the trees. Are you picturing a woodpecker? In the winter, Illinois has 6 species of woodpeckers, all with bold patterns, special adaptations, and a rapping, tapping rhythm. Woodpecker may not be the most creative name, but it is descriptive. These birds do peck, and all that hammering does have a purpose. Several, actually. Pecking at the bark of trees uncovers food like insects, including insect eggs and larvae. The woodpeckers can also take this food on the go and store it in a previously carved hole for later. On top of creating pantries for food storage, they also create homes. Their beaks are perfect for the job, hammering in little tree cavities. And they don't only make it for themselves, but also for the other birds in the neighborhood. Tree cavity nesters like nuthatches, chickadees, and bluebirds will use abandoned woodpecker holes. Most importantly, that pecking can be a love song. Instead of singing, the males will drum a tune to attract a mate in spring. The loudest, longest drum solo will win over the ladies, so the best stages make dead or hollow trees. Now sometimes the males can get really creative, using fence posts or utility poles, even gutters or trash cans. Once they find their mate, the loud drumming can continue as they defend their territory. I had to stop and investigate this tree because you see this giant hole that looks like it was pecked out, and there's like holes within holes. And what the clue is actually the bark's texture. This isn't just the tree itself. This is all sorts of little signs that beetle larvae were chewing and crawling here. So this tree had tons of insects, and woodpeckers came in and definitely found those for a good snack. This insect-fueled, head-banging lifestyle isn't for everybody, but woodpeckers are sturdy and built for impact. To ensure they don't get daily concussions, woodpeckers have small brains that are fit tightly in their skulls. Since the brain is tightly fitted in there, it doesn't move much with all the hammering. Dense bone on the outside of their skulls, paired with porous bone on the inside, helps distribute the force of the banging around their skull and not their brain. Plus, their frontal bones work together with the muscles at the base of their beak to act like shock absorbers. Depending on the woodpecker, their tongues can be sticky or end in a barbed tip to help grab onto those squirmy insects. And their tongues are long. They can extend 2 inches past their bill. When not in use, they wrap around the top of their skull. Woodpeckers have zygodactyl toes to help them grab onto tree trunks. This is a different toe arrangement than other songbirds. They have 2 toes in front and 2 in back that help them latch on and make it easy to hop up and down the trees. When they're ready to stay steady for a hammering session, they'll use their stiff, strong tail feathers to prop them up like a kickstand. Now that we know how these birds are built to survive all that pecking, let's take a moment to learn their names. They can get a little confusing being the same color patterns, but the more closely you look, the easier it is to see how unique they really are. Let's start with the more challenging pair, downy woodpecker versus hairy woodpecker. Overall, downies tend to be more common in suburban areas, but if you live in an area with tall, mature trees, you could have both. At first glance, these two may look like twins, with white bellies, black wings with white spots, and the males have a dash of red on their back. However, the size is way different. Hairies are larger, about the size of a robin, where downies are much smaller, about the size of a house sparrow. Even though that size comparison may seem obvious, it's not so much when you see one on its own. So next, look at the size of the bill. Downy woodpeckers have very small, slender bills, measuring 1/3 of their head. Whereas the hairy woodpeckers, their bills look like railroad spikes in comparison, being the same size as their head. Lastly, look at their tail feathers. Downy woodpeckers have barring on the edge of their back tails, making it look like they're speckled, whereas hairy woodpeckers have clear white edges on their back tail. Next up is the red-bellied woodpecker versus the red-headed woodpecker. Now visually, these two look quite different, but they get confused because they both have red heads. But the color of red is the key. Red-headed woodpeckers have a fully covered head with ruby red, whereas the red-bellied woodpecker has a more bright orangey red on the top and the back of their head. Red-bellied woodpeckers do have a little stripe of red on their bellies, but it's hard to see at first glance. More noticeable is their checkered pattern wings that are black and white. Red-headed woodpeckers have pure white bellies, their backs are solid black, and they have large white patches on their wings. Red-bellied woodpeckers tend to be more common at your feeders. However, the red-headeds will get a little bit more bold if they're hungry enough during the winter, testing out your suet feeders. The next two aren't really hard to tell apart, but they are harder to find. Pileated woodpeckers still fit with the color theme, having black bodies, white stripes on their faces, and a large red crest. They're also the largest of the woodpeckers, being about the same size as a crow, and their call sounds like a dinosaur roaring in the forest. How you can tell if you have a pileated woodpecker in your neighborhood is look at their holes. They tend to be large and oval shaped, and you might even see chips of bark mulched down at the bottom of the base. I was lucky enough to see this in person in my backyard. It was like a cartoon. The woodpecker's knocking and there's chips of bark flying all over the place. Northern flickers are probably the most unique out of the woodpecker family. They're a gray or tan color with black polka dots on their bellies. Both males and females have a red patch on the back of their head, but the males will have a black mustache color below their eyes. Now, both of them, when they fly, you'll see a flash of bright yellow on the underside of their wings. Northern flickers will also spend the most time on the ground because they prefer eating ants and beetles. Now, come winter, they'll switch over to more nuts and seeds, so you will see them at your feeders. Now that you know how they're built and who they are, I have one more challenge for you. Attract them to your backyard. An easy way to welcome them into your space is providing feeders like peanuts or suet. And if it's in a safe space, leave your dead standing trees to provide insects and a perfect drumming stage. By helping the woodpeckers, you're really helping the whole ecosystem. Woodpeckers help control insect populations, as well as the health of trees by preventing too much insect damage. And remember, they peck the holes in the trees, so they make homes for other cavity nesters. Soon you'll have a whole symphony of birds, all thanks to these rock star woodpeckers.
want to do more to protect nature, inspire discovery, and connect people with the great outdoors? You can when you support the Nature Foundation of Will County. This nonprofit charity raises funds through support from donors, organizations, and the business community to help support the Forest Preserve District of Will County's mission. The foundation helps various initiatives take flight. It helps the Forest Preserve secure national touring exhibitions. It pays for new amenities such as campground welcome stations and bike repair stations on Will County's regional trails. It assists with the costs associated with land stewardship, which includes equipment for volunteer workdays and seeding of native plants to restore the land to its original state, which helps enhance not only your outdoor experiences, but local wildlife's as well. There's a lot more work to be done, and we're just getting started. Roll with us on this adventure and become a champion for nature, so future generations can appreciate and explore everything Mother Nature has to offer. Donate today at willcountynature.org.
As the year comes to a close, let's take a moment to reflect on all we have accomplished. We have covered lots of district projects, including the acquisition of Hidden Oaks Nature Center and the completion of the extension of the Veterans Memorial Trail. We learned more about turtle research with our wildlife ecologists, and history came to life with inside views of Vermont Cemetery and Riverview Farmstead. Plus, our local wildlife stories and preserve features hopefully inspired you to explore somewhere new. Our goal is to present these topics in an engaging and polished way, but there are several moments that don't make it into the finished product. Joining me to discuss some of our behind-the-scenes shenanigans is Chad Murda, who's usually behind the camera and is responsible for all the editing magic. Sometimes I get asked how you guys battle with all the weather. So we try to plan for rain days and whatnot, but sometimes there's just like no hope. So I'm thinking at the very beginning, first episode, we did Hidden Oaks and Backyard Birds, and it was freezing that day. It was like 6 degrees or below. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I think we could say it was an absolutely brutal day. We ended up filming some things inside just because we couldn't be outside. We faced a lot of battles with the equipment. Cameras freeze up, batteries don't last nearly as long as you think they would. Lenses fog up, and it's just an ongoing battle to try to get the shots that we need without freezing out.
Without freezing the cameras. Yeah, I remember just like even having a hard time talking because it was so cold. And then of course my eyes are so sensitive. So if it's too windy, too sunny, my eyes are tearing, and it could take a lot of like, hold on.
And some of those are the best outtakes.
Yes, which I'm sure we have. There'll be 2 common finches in your backyards. And the first one is the house finch. Now the house finch was just blah, blah, blah. The house finch was originally in the western. Another winter moment I remember is at Messenger Woods. We were looking for tracks. We had a lot of success with tracks, better than I thought, because some of these things I'm like, well, I'm just gonna have to see what we find. And we actually found more than tracks.
Right, we found a nice little blood trail, and we followed that trail pretty much as far as we could until we lost it, but we were really hoping on hitting the jackpot at the end there.
Yeah, it was kind of a continuous like journey of like, but wait, we have to keep going straight to see what it is. We never figured it out. Many of our segments include wildlife, like creature features, and it would really help if the wildlife was there. And sometimes we've been lucky. So I'm thinking of Hamel Woods with all the deer.
Right, that was an amazing one. We kind of knew where there's a spot where they congregate. So I went out there early in the morning before we started filming, and as I'm rolling in the parking lot, there's just a ton of deer out in the field. So I was able to pull in, set up the camera, and they actually started coming closer to the camera and just going about their business. So it gave us lots of good options to get some really good footage.
Even when I showed up, they were still cool. I could speak, do my thing, and they were just right behind me on my shoulder. So
yeah, it doesn't usually work out that good.
yeah. And then we also have a lot of like B-roll. So you're talking about like filming them ahead of time. Can you explain how important B-roll is for the buzz?
I mean, I think it's crucial when we're talking about an animal. We want to be able to see the animal and demonstrate some of their behaviors. So one of the things we've done since we started shooting video about 6 years ago is we save every piece of footage that we have and catalog it. So I can often go back to other stuff that we've had, or we do get stuff when we're out in the preserve, or even for a particular segment, we will go out and just spend a considerable amount of time in the preserve at certain locations to try to get the wildlife that we know we're talking about.
Yeah, so it's a little bit more visual, so you're not staring at my face the whole time. I appreciate that. And speaking of wildlife, another one that comes to mind that is probably one of our greatest days, at least for me, and hopefully a lot of viewers at home, was the snake day. At Goodnow Grove, when we pick a topic, we think, okay, where are there snakes? And there's a lot of snapper pond, northern water snakes, and they were just everywhere.
It was probably one of the most amazing filming days in person that I've had. We're out there and there are snakes crawling across the trail, there are snakes hanging in the trees.
I posted lots of field trips there where I show kids where all the snakes are, and sure, there are like one or two, but that day we had to like almost avoid them to not step on them. There were so many.
Snakes are for sure out. There is one that just keeps on crossing the trail, so we gotta make sure we watch our step. It is so cute though. I think I just love them because they don't have arms or legs. They're just kind of slithering around.
And it was really cool to remember the mating.
We had a little mating ball.
Yeah, that was really
a
cool to
little
see.
snake party is what I call that. That's even better when we catch that on film. And most of the times, wildlife really doesn't cooperate. Even when we have our resident reptiles on scene to like make things easier, still doesn't go smoothly. So I'm thinking of when we used our turtles for the cross the street segment. So you safely learn how to transfer a turtle. When we put it in the car, we had a little bit of surprise. Do you remember that?
Yeah, we kind of pulled onto the road and we got everything set up in the spot where we're going to be. You went to go get the turtle back out of the car and it's no longer in its box.
I mean, it was in a tall box. I really thought it was fine, and I looked in the box, not there. Luckily, it was totally fine. It was just a little bit over. It didn't make a big tumble or anything, but it was just a little surprising. And then I also wanted to show, it was a snapping turtle, if you remember, and I wanted to show that a snapping turtle like snaps. And I thought, oh, it eats all the time. Will you just get it to eat on camera?
Not that day.
Nope, had nothing to do with food that day. So you never got to see that. Maybe in the future, we'll see it again. Sometimes we bite off a little bit more than we can chew with like our adventure rec segments. I'm thinking kayaking on the DuPage River. We thought it was just gonna be a 2-hour thing. Turned out to be much longer.
Turned into about a 4.5-hour trip. We didn't know how much we were going to really need to get on the river and wanted to get as much footage as possible. So we started at Electric Park in Plainfield. Idea was to get out at Hamel Woods, and that was a brutal, brutal day.
It was really windy. I just remember paddling against the wind pretty much the whole time and thinking like, oh, it won't be long. Shame on me. Didn't put my sunscreen on. I got burnt so bad.
And I never get sunburnt, and that was the worst sunburn I've had of my life because a certain part of my shorts was higher than it normally is, the area that never gets sun.
That never gets sun. We'll remember that one. But we also got, like, I would never regret it because we got so much great footage. We saw a bald eagle. We saw tons of fish in the water.
And we got some nice underwater footage that we normally wouldn't otherwise get.
Yeah, totally worth it. Just a little adventure. And a little behind the scenes knowledge is we're a team of 3. And when something like that, we're really a team of 2. Like how to film something on a kayak is kind of difficult.
But it's not easy. We've got a large 3-person kayak. There's 2 of us squeezed into it, and I'm actually sitting backwards facing Susie. So there's a lot of different things you have to take into account. And 4.5 hours on a kayak, I'm real happy nobody was filming me getting out of it when we got back.
Sitting in the same position. And we had a guest speaker, Jennifer Hammer was there. So trying to catch her floating while we're floating, and the wind is taking us a different direction. Like we had to kind of really plan out, okay, we're close, now go.
Right, it was a challenging shoot all the way around.
Remember that day with our wildlife ecologist? We joined her on a normal day in her life tracking turtles.
And it was a horrible day for us.
We did not know what we were getting ourselves into.
Absolutely not.
So we were following her. Well, these turtles are not along the trail by any means. So there was thorns, tons of poison ivy. I remember you were like, so are we in poison ivy? And I looked down, like everywhere the eye could see is poison ivy. I had the worst case of it. I think I had it for like a month after that.
All right, so just to give you a little perspective, a lot of these plants are as tall as us or taller, and a lot of these plants have big, sharp thorns. So that's been an adventure. And then if you look down on the ground, it's just an ocean of poison ivy. So I give these techs a lot of props as they're just, I've already lost them. They're like disappeared in here as they're searching for these turtles.
Yeah, at one point, I think you were bleeding.
Right, you're like, hey, do you know you're bleeding? No idea how that happened.
No, there were so many thorns, a lot of tall plants, but it was really exciting to see these turtles that navigate that every day. I mean, they're just a whole different load to the ground, I guess.
Right, you know it's a good day filming when you rip your pants, you're a hot mess, and you tell everybody you're not coming back to the office.
Yeah,
you're
right.
doing them a favor.
Whew. So today it's raining and we're making it work coming inside, and with our schedules we still have all of our other responsibilities that we do, so we really have to squeeze in these film days, and sometimes we just have to deal with the weather. So I'm thinking the day at Hadley Valley we kept checking and checking about that thunderstorm.
Right, we were supposed to film in the morning and it was just scattered. There were scattered storms popping up. We kept pushing it back like an hour, 2 hours, an hour. Then we decided, you know, we're just going to go for it and see if we can make it work. Weather was fine. As soon as we got to Hadley Valley, raining directly over Hadley Valley and nowhere else.
Yeah, and we did what you will notice in the shelter. I'm in the shelter with a rain jacket trying to do our thing. And then later it finally opened up. It was so sunny. I think I had a sunburn that day too.
And it got
Just
real
so
humid real
weird
quick.
how it could change. There are some challenges when we're filming at some of our preserves. Thorn Creek comes to mind when they have kind of the thinner trails and we're trying to walk and talk and it's natural. There's roots, there's elevation changes.
Right, and walking backwards while filming is not easy, and you kind of have to map out a path behind you, keep one eye behind you, and hopefully you don't wipe out and create a big blooper.
Yeah, sometimes I wish I had a camera so we could just watch all the crazy stuff you have to do to make it work. We also stumble upon things that maybe we weren't expecting. So I'm remembering the bald cypress like tree roots at the bottom where they look like knees. And we also found salamanders out there.
Yeah, I mean, I've hiked out there a couple times and have never seen the cypress roots. But it was nice because all the water was gone, so they were exposed, and we got an interesting view while we were out there.
Yeah, it was very unexpectedly dry for the season we were in. So you never know what you're gonna find. A common question I do get asked is if there's a blooper reel. And of course there's a blooper reel. You know, I'm not perfect. None of us are, whether it's not knowing the answer that I thought I knew and the guest speaker is just, nope, that's not how it went down. Or I can't spit out the lines.
And another fun feature of the creek is that it flows 2 different ways.
Not here.
Oh, dang.
Sorry.
McKinley Woods also connects to the INM Canal State Trail. INM Canal State Trail. McKinley Woods also connects to the INM Canal State Trail. McKinley Woods also connects to the INM State Canal. Nope. Nope. McKinley Woods also connects to the INM State.
Next year is our 4th season of The Buzz. We've already plotted out a little roadmap of all the topics we want to cover. Is there anything you're really looking forward to?
I think some of the segments that we have planned out that are kind of like field adventures with staff, even though we kind of say how those are our more difficult days, but we are gluttons for punishment, and I do think it makes better segments and really sheds light on what goes on in the preserves day to day to kind of maintain and restore all the land that we have.
Yeah, those are the best ones to me. They're the most authentic because we're meeting people and what they're doing and what they're passionate about. So that gets me really excited when Becky is freaking out about her turtles, when we're like bleeding at thorns. Those are the days.
And for me, I get a little anxious about it because I have no idea what to expect, and you just kind of have to roll with the punches.
And I'm also excited next year. We're really kind of keeping track of what's trending on our social media and our websites, what you guys are really liking and engaging with, that maybe we can't dig into the details on a social media post, but we can dig into it on The Buzz.
Or a lot of times our segment ideas come from what are the questions we're getting over and over on social media. because we know that's what people are interested in and they want to get the answer to.
I'm happy to dig into some of those topics. Thank you so much for watching The Buzz this year. I hope, if you haven't already, subscribe to our YouTube channel to watch all the episodes of The Buzz, plus more nature content. Starting in January, we'll begin Season 4. Make sure to share this with your family and friends, as there's sure to be moments you won't want to miss.
This winter, be sure to venture out to this cool spot at Goodnow Grove Nature Preserve in Beecher. There's so much to do and see. Soak in some amazing scenery, hit the sled hill with enthusiasm, or simply chill out in the Nature Center and learn some new things. Say hello to our residents who call the Nature Center home. Get an inside look at a working beehive. See how many birds you can count at our very busy feeders. Browse the gift shop. And don't forget to get a dog park permit for your four-legged friend. Plum Valley Dog Park is just minutes away. So go ahead, map your next adventure at reconnectwithnature.org and plan a visit soon.
Thank you for tuning in to Season 3 of The Buzz. We ended on a high note celebrating our rock star woodpeckers, and we hope you got a little laugh out of our behind-the-scenes memories and antics. We're truly grateful for all your support this year, but it doesn't have to end here. Make sure you map your next adventure at reconnectwithnature.org to see what's happening in the preserves and the facilities this winter. I hope to see you out exploring these wild places, but until then, I'll see you next time on The Buzz.